Welcome back, everybody, and today we will talk about God's plan with you. Because God has chosen you, He has a plan with you, and we need to find that out. We will start by looking at your past, then we will determine your values and your passions, and finally we will look at your talents and gifts. And we'll do this all in a big Venn diagram. In the middle will be your purpose. And so if you want to join me today, you will find out why God made you the way you are made. You can find out how you can feel more connected to God. You can find out your role in your ecclesia, in your church. And you can find out what God's plan is with you, how you can serve Him best. Sound good? Well, let's get started right away. And before I get started with the whole video, I have a worksheet, and I'll put a link below that I translated the album of Deeple into English. And the only real way to find out your purpose is to write things out and fill out this worksheet. And I recommend you click on the link, download the Notion page PDF, and then get started while you're watching this video. All right, so the first point is reflection. And for all the people in the Bible, they had a past until they came to their point where God gave them their purpose and they found their purpose. And today is the new beginning for you, where you can find your meaning. And that begins by reflecting, looking at the past. And so what you need is Post-its, something like this or this, small ones. You need a piece of paper, you need a pen, colors, right? So with all these things, you can get started. That's all you need. And as you draw out your timeline, basically you start at the beginning, draw a normal timeline. And while you're doing this, make sure to write down and reflect on different people that have been in your life. Maybe your family, your spouse, your friends, any of these things, write them down maybe on small papers like this, and you can then stick them up, right? So you have the piece of paper here. I'll try and demonstrate. Yes, so this is your piece of paper. This is where you could write your friends, your family and stuff. And basically you go through your life from your birth until today, and you describe the events that happened. School, university, anything that you can think of. And think of the people that involve it in your life. Then think of certain chapters. Right, here it is. You can see nice and colorful. All right, and then so the next thing when you've done that is try and identify different patterns. Like for me, I had a phase where my university was really hard in the beginning. I felt this dip, and then after pulling through, I could come out. And this is a pattern that I've had in my life more than once, that it gets hard in the beginning, and then you pull through, and then good things happen. So that's one of the patterns that I've discovered. Then you can write out all your events, like you went to school, university, you work, maybe a wedding, and then try and identify key occurrences in your life. What's your relationship with God? How did it develop over time? Has it always been good? Has it always suffered at certain times? How did that coincide with different events? And also think about relationships with your teachers, maybe with your spouse, with family members. How did they develop over time? At the end of the day, you'll get something like this, as I've shown before. It should be nice and colorful with different events. And so once you've done that, you've identified the people in your life, the events in your life, the chapters that you've gone through, the patterns, different circumstances that have occurred, and also relationships. So these 6 things are things that you can look at in this first step. And once you've done that, you can move on to the next one, the values part. Right, so the next section is your core values. And to determine what your purpose is and why you're on this plan, you need to determine what is important to you. And for this, you have to think about a few questions. These are: what fascinates you? What do you do when you're in the flow? What core values can you identify from the timeline that you... And once you've talked about these things, do the next page, which is this one. And I'll share it with you later on, of course, where you go through all the different options that, and this is the second step, right? The first one is just in general, try and ask a few questions. Second step is identify core values. So you look at and hold this whole list of values, and you identify what you like, what you enjoy, what resonates with you. And so step 3 is narrowing it down. You have circled all the values you identify with, and then you have to nail it down to your top 5. Then you look at your passions, and this is a short one where you just look at when is your heartbeat faster. Right? For me, it's making these YouTube videos for you young people, going on adventures with my wife, and also music makes me really happy. These are the 3 passions that then you should just write out in a minute, right? You have a minute, write it all out. Next is an interesting one. It's basically groups of people, and then you can make a tick if you are a person who gets value from this group, or you give value, or you give and take, right? It can be give and take. And the timing, right? Are you currently doing this? Or have you done it, or will you do it in the future? Make your crosses where it makes sense, and then you decide. Again, same principle, you go really wide at the beginning and then you narrow it down. So now you narrow it down to 3 groups of people you want to focus on, and then you choose your favorite group of people that you want to then target. For me, it's young people. All right, and then the next bit is already the section on once you figure out your passions, and as part of the passions, then you go on to look at areas and topics you're interested. Right, and this is the list over here where you then get to cross different topics that you're interested, like lifestyle, ecclesial life, and health, and all of these topics. And then you get to determine your top 3, and then again you narrow it down to your favorite topic that you want to focus on now. This whole process of having a choice in the beginning and then narrowing it down really helps you nail your purpose and God's purpose with you. And then we go on to part 3. Part 3 is your talents and your gifts. And in this part, I'd like to just read from Romans 12, verses 3 to 8, just to give you a bit of a feeling for what this is all about. For by grace given me, I say to every one of you, do not think of yourselves more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourselves with sober judgment in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each of you. For just as each one of us has one body with many members, and these members do not all have the same function, so in Christ we, though many in form, and each member belongs to all the others, we have different gifts according to the grace given to us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it is teaching, then teach. If it is to encourage, then give encouragement. If it is giving, then give generously. If it is to lead, do it diligently. If it is to show mercy, do it cheerfully. So we see here a whole list of stuff that we can do and we should do because God has called us to do this. And we have different talents in different areas. And to do this, there's a cool test that you can do. It's also in English. And right, so you click on this link below and then hit enter. And I just want to demonstrate, this is already the English version, but you might need to toggle up here, might be in German. You might need to just toggle this to English and then you can get started. So it's a gift test where you get to figure out what you are gifted at. And you have to answer a lot of statements. It takes around 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, and you just give it a rating from 1 to 5. 1 is, nah, don't agree at all, and 5 is, yes, I totally agree. So when you get started, you just type in your name, right? So I'm Chris, and then click start. And then you answer these questions. So people come to me when they find themselves in hopeless situations. Often I can help, refer them to someone who can help them. I'd say, yeah, I think generally yes. And then you just keep going. And then as an end result, you will get a whole list of talents that you are specially gifted at. And this is ranked with an algorithm that they've developed. And it's really helpful. So I went through it as well. I went through this with a few others. And for me, it came out with a list of 5 things. So that's as a host, as a musician, as a man of faith, a prophet, and a teacher. And all these things are really things that I'm passionate about. And they pretty much nailed my passion as well. So that's a really great test that is also in English. Takes a while, but it's worth it. All right. And then once you've done that, we've reached the point which is to bring all these different sections, different areas into one homogeneous group, and that's done with a Venn diagram. If you haven't seen a Venn diagram, it looks like this, and you see that all these circles have an intersection, and this intersection is your personal profile, your purpose given by God. And so at the top here we have the past, at the bottom we have the talents, on this other side we have your passions and your values. And when you write these in, the closer you put them to the middle, you can also put them in intersection. You add your 5 core values to the passions and values section, right? Then you favorite group people you want to work with, and then you add your favorite topic you want to handle, and then your top 5 gifts from the gift test, and then also key events or key markers in your past. The question is now, what can you do to combine these? And over the next few pages, you have a lot of questions that help you to find a way to merge this into your personal purpose. And I won't go into detail here. I think it's easier if you just do it your own time. Basically, you want to work on these things and find out what your calling is, what your purpose is, in as many words as possible, and then you just narrow it down. My passion, my calling from God with you, and it's basically this one sentence where it says, I want to serve God through video and audio format, meet lots of different faithful people, and tell them about the good news of the gospel. Right, so we've looked at these 3 sections, and now you have found your calling. You know what your purpose is. God has prepared for you. If you have any questions, feel free to write them in the comments. If you've liked this, subscribe as well. If you want to look at another video and see all about what the Bible has to say about death, what happens when you die, when we die, then click over here. And that's it. Thanks so much for watching. Peace.